This is a 2025 Cadillac Optiq in the Luxury 2 trim. And this is Foaming Ions. Hey car nerds, welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, go ahead, like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, do all those things. Make sure you come back for more. So today we are talking about my 2025 Cadillac Optiq. This is going to be a 9-month ownership review. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, why I chose it, everything in between. But this is a nice, sporty Cadillac. I say sporty, I mean it's a big SUV. How sporty can it be? Well, it's also a Cadillac. Cadillac likes to be like the American Audi or BMW. You know, they want both a blend of luxury and performance. And that's exactly what you get in the Optiq. The Optiq in 2025 came with 300 horsepower, all-wheel drive. For 2026, they did, change out the motors, and that's fine. This still does 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds. It comfortably seats 5, very comfortably seats 4. But let me give you a quick tour of the inside and the outside. All right, for a quick outside tour here. So there's a Luxury 2 trim, which is this, and then there's also a Sport 2 trim, and that's Sport and Luxury trim. Now, what's the difference between Sport and Luxury? The Sport does not have the chrome up here. It does not have the chrome down there. As you come along the sides, the Sport also gets different wheels, and then this chrome piece is missing along the side here. The Sport also does not have the chrome trim across the top. On the Sport trims, it is like a black or dark chrome. Coming around to the back, again, the Sport does not have the chrome on the back here, like the luxury models do. But they all have this lower lip spoiler and then this active spoiler up top. None of the models get a wiper on the rear window, but the spoiler does actually have some vents on it to allow airflow to come through. And that's supposed to help clear water off the back window. And they all have this crest that you can use to open the back hatch. It is a powered hatch. All right. And I think that covers it for an outside tour. All right, now to give a quick tour of everything. At the front of the car, you do not have a frunk. You do have a motor bay. There's probably enough room that Cadillac could have given you a frunk, but we don't have one. But on the insulation or the padding there on top of the hood, we do have a Cadillac crest, so we get something cool out of it. We do have some nice wheels on the luxury package. Coming around to the interior, we do have the sky cool gray interior. And notice there are some speakers in the doors. Now on the back, you do have speakers in the bottom of the door. They don't have the cool AKG like the others, but you do have this here. You do get a 120 volt plug and 2 USB-C and seat heaters and vents for the rear row or the back row. The doors don't open a full 90, but they open enough, make it easy to get in and out of the back. Coming out of the back of the car, you do have pretty good storage space. Some of the Optiqs also come with a nice cargo cover here. And that does give you some good shade, especially in an Arizona summer. And you do have these AKG speakers back here on each side behind each of the passenger seats in the back. Back here, you've also got a subwoofer. Underneath here, you do have a small sub-trunk area. It's good for the charging cable and the adapter. There's also a small space there, and you get some tow hooks. Now coming around to the driver's side of the vehicle, really isn't anything different in the back row. But again, it is nice. And then coming back up to the driver's side here, just like the passenger, you get the controls on the door, you get memory settings on the door, seat heater and cooling on the door, lock and window buttons and side view mirror buttons on the door. The driver's seat, is kind of nice with that big screen, I guess, in front of you. It's basically one continuous screen all the way across. You do get a heads-up display in the Sport 2 and Luxury 2 packages, and that is this big cutout up here. And then you do get a motorized charge door, and then you get the little plug there for the CCS adapters. But there we have it. There's a little more in-depth tour of the Optiq. All right, folks, let's enable that Super Cruise. There we go. Look, Ma, no hands! If you are new to the Cadillac Optiq, or GM in general, Super Cruise is a hands-free cruise control or adaptive cruise control for mapped roads. Most of those mapped roads are highways, but not all of them are highways. A lot of people just say it's highways, but if you actually look at the Super Cruise map, you will find a bunch of major roads that are actually mapped. It's really cool. It's really cool technology. It actually works really well. It's got auto lane changes, or you can use a turn signal to change lanes. It's very nice. It's very nice. Is Super Cruise the same as Tesla full self-drive or supervised self-drive? No. Does Super Cruise drive itself? I mean, technically. I mean, it goes down the road. I mean, we just did a lane change, right? I guess it's more similar to auto steer, but hey, whatever. To each their own. People should support multiple advanced ADAS systems because competition is good. And not everybody wants to pay $100 a month to have a car drive them from point A to point B. I mean, it's cool. That's cool technology and all, but not everybody wants to spend $100 on it. There are also a lot of people that actually enjoy driving themselves. I know, crazy concept of driving yourself. Who would do that? A lot of people. A lot of people would drive themselves. But it's cool to have options. And options are what's great in a consumer market, because options drive innovation and they drive choice. And when people narrow in on certain things, that helps push technology innovation in certain areas. I know, it might be a hot take, but, it is what it is. With the Cadillac Optiq, you also get Super Cruise for, I believe, 3 years for free. Hey, that's not bad. For 3 years, they get to experience this. actually handles this this lane quite well. There's cars merging in front and behind, cars coming up next to us, and the car did all right. Now with the Optiq, we should talk about the elephant in the room here. There's no Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. The system runs Android Automotive OS, but it does not have Android Auto, at least not in North America. If you get an Optiq or a GM vehicle outside of North America, you can get both CarPlay and Android Auto. Currently, the Lyriq is the only Cadillac EV that has those screen sharing applications. Why is Cadillac doing it? Why is GM doing it? Probably because they want to drive subscriptions to OnStar. Now, what do you miss without that? You miss notifications from other communication apps other than text messaging. So no Teams, no Messenger, Discord, Slack, WhatsApp, all that stuff. Those notifications don't come through on the screen or the car. Is that annoying? Yes, I'm sure that is very annoying for some people. Is it the end of the world? No. You also cannot respond to group messages. The way it interacts with phones, it is just simple communications. So again, is that end of the world? No, but sometimes annoying. So the other thing with CarPlay and Android Automotive, you can use all your streaming apps. Well, guess what? All the streaming apps are built in, or you can download them from the Play Store. At least most of them. Most of them are built in. The infotainment system does pretty well at incorporating a lot of things. There's a GM curated Play Store. Probably the weakest point or weakest spot of the infotainment system is with the audio equalizer. Now the car has Dolby Atmos. It's got a bunch of speakers. It's got speakers here, it's got speakers in the dash, speakers in the door, speakers behind me, speakers behind the back passenger seats. I mean, there's speakers everywhere in here. And Dolby Atmos sounds phenomenal. If you haven't driven an Optiq or Vistiq or Lyriq, anything with the anything in the Cadillac line or the GM line with Dolby Atmos, you should go and drive it. It sounds really good. Now, if you're listening to non-Atmos music, though, your equalizer sliders are the generic bass, mid, and treble. It's serviceable, but it's not optimal. Now, there is a GM community member that created their own app for equalizer, MC Equal. They actually had a write-up in GM Authority not too long ago. It's a really cool app. It doesn't affect Atmos. You also can't listen to Atmos music with it. It'll just play the non-Atmos version of those songs. The way GM has the Atmos kind of firewalled or blocked off, these other apps don't really communicate with it. They don't play nice. Or I guess it's not that they don't play nice. They just don't work. It just disables Atmos. Again, end of the world? No, because that equalizer with 7 bands, let me tell you, you can really dial in the sound of this car, and non-Atmos music sounds so much better when you use that third-party equalizer. The other thing about the Optiq interior that's really cool, or the infotainment system, is you've got this control knob. Maybe you can't see it because of my drink, but you've got this control knob here, and it's really cool because you can knock it up or down, left or right. You can go into all the applications. And you can control everything that you want to control inside of a car, or I guess infotainment display. So that's really cool. That also means you don't get fingerprints all over the screen. You just get fingerprints on the control knob. And there's also buttons for music, navigation, to go back, to go home, or to open the communicate or the call menu. There's also this roller wheel for volume control. So it's really cool. You know, there's plenty of storage. There's 2 good cup holders. There's a little space up here. There's a cubby down there. You got a phone charger here. Doesn't work with a lot of phones. And after 9 months, though, I've gotten used to it. I've got this USB-C cable run into the center console, and it's got a little 90-degree plug on it. And this is nice because I can slide my phone right into that slot, plug it in, and I'm good. I'll charge up on the way. You know, would the wireless charger be cool? Yeah, but it just doesn't line up very well. But again, after 9 months, is that so bad? Nope, it's not. It's really not that bad. You know, there's a lot of little quirks. Now, I feel like there's a lot of little quirks in any new car. You know, there's just things that are not perfect. One thing about this car that you may notice in some of the videos, and even this one, is I've got a dash mat on this. So Cadillac hasn't addressed it in the Optiq, but if you have the gray dash, you can get some wicked glare and reflections off of the dash. Now, that also apparently depends on where you sit, or the angle that you sit at. It seems taller people tend to have more of an issue with it. But you know, a dash mat resolves the issue. The biggest problem, though, is that there's nobody that truly makes a dash mat for the North American version of the vehicle with the HUD cutout. So when I ordered mine, I had to get just the dash mat without the HUD cutout, and then I had to go up and measure and cut out for the HUD. Is it perfect? No, but it definitely works, and it's definitely a lot better than the dash glare. Now, in the Equinox, they have a similar dashboard, but the front pad, or the front section of the dash in the Equinox, for whatever reason, Chevy used hard plastic, and that definitely created a lot of glare for a lot of people. Now, in that, GM did address that with the recall, and they basically just install a small carpeted dash mat that goes over that hard plastic. And really, that's all you would need for the Optiq. The Equinox doesn't have the same HUD, and it's not quite the same design, but hopefully Cadillac will eventually address this, whether they replace that upper pad or back pad with the black piece. All of the other trims, if you get the Autumn Canyon or the navy blue, they all come with that piece in black, and it's probably to address glare. You know, hopefully Cadillac will offer that as a replacement for the gray dash. I mean, it wouldn't be that horribly different, or wouldn't look that bad. I mean, I don't think the black dash mat looks bad, but you know, it's a quirk. It's one of those things that just doesn't look quite right. Could it be better? Yeah. Will it get better? Hopefully. But there are a lot of nice things about this car. You know, I've talked about a few big things that, you know, people may not like or maybe don't agree with, but there's a lot of nice things about it. The car comfortably seats 5 people. It will extremely comfortably seat 4 people. These seats are very nice. Taken road trips in it already, and let me tell you, you don't feel like you've been sitting in a car for, you know, 5 hours or 6 hours by the time you reach your destination. You know, even though you're going to stop and, you know, charge after a couple hours, sure, but you know, you're getting out of the car for, you know, 15-20 minutes maybe. But you know, you don't get any kind of like fatigue from sitting in these seats. They're really good. There's a lot of support in them, adjustable lumbar control. You can adjust the angle of the seat, the up and down, the back of the seat. It's good. The only knock on the seats is that the headrest, you can't move up and back or forward and back. You can just move it up and down. Again, end of the world, no. The headrests are just fine. They work well. The seats, though, are very comfortable. So the other thing that Cadillac does well, or GM in general does well with, is Regen braking. They've got a great one-pedal mode. You can turn it off if you want the car to act more like a traditional gas car and, coast more. You can put the one pedal in low mode, or you can put it in high mode. But it works really well. Once you get used to it, one pedal is amazing, and using one pedal, you can basically coast down the road as if you didn't have it enabled. It works really well. The other thing that Cadillac has is a Regen paddle on the steering wheel. In the Equinox or the Chevy vehicles, pulling that Regen pedal is just on and off. It's just, you're either getting Regen braking or you're not using the pedal or the paddle. In the Cadillacs, it is a pressure sensitive switch. So the more you pull it, or the harder you pull it, the more Regen you get out of the brakes or out of the wheels. So it's really cool. It's just a nice little feature that Cadillac added to these, as opposed to what's in the Chevys. The charging speed of the car also works really well. I had talked about the road trips a few minutes ago. If you're driving down the road using the built-in nav, the car will automatically precondition the battery for your charging stops. That's really cool. That's really handy. 30, 45 minutes before you get somewhere for a fast charge, it's going to kick off that process, and it's going to cool the battery to as close as it can get to the optimal temperature. That way when you stop the charge, you'll get as close as you can to the optimal charge speed for your battery state of charge. Now, I guess on the flip side of that, the Optiq and all of the Ultium vehicles are super low voltage. They only charge at 400 volts. I believe this battery pack is somewhere around 360, 370 volts. So in order to hit the maximum 150 kilowatt charge speed, you need to be at about 10-15% state of charge. The battery's got to be perfect, and the charge dispenser also has to give you 500 amps, or at least 500 amps. And that's the only way that you can get to that 150 kilowatt charge speed. Now, if you have like the Escalade IQ or the Silverado or the Sierra EVs, and you have the max battery, what they do is they stack a second battery on top, and there's a switch in there to where when those do charge at 800 volts. Now, those are also like 200 kilowatt hour batteries, so that's a lot of battery. And so thankfully those do charge at 800 volts, but that's the only way, and those are the only EVs that currently have 800 volts from GM. A lot of other vehicles that are coming out now, especially in the luxury range or the sport range, they're moving towards 800 volts. It would be nice if GM were to update the battery architecture to support 800 volts, at least for charging. I don't know exactly what they would need to do, if they would need smaller cells, more cells, however they need to do it. I hope that GM moves that direction, because that would greatly improve the charge speed when you're out road tripping or needing to use a public fast charger. At home though, level 2 charging is great. Although, you don't need anything super fancy for level 2 charging or even level 1 charging. It's just that public fast charger speed. Most people will charge at home when you own an EV, but not everybody can charge at home when they own an EV. And a lot of people like to drive their cars and go places, whether it's a couple hours away or 15, 20 hours away. A lot of people like to drive on road trips. Having the ability to, charge, get the charge you need in, 10 minutes and be on your way for the next 2 hours, that'd be amazing. As it sits now, you're going to be waiting, 30 to 40 minutes if you need to go 10 to 80 to reach your next optimal charge spot. It's a long time to sit and wait. On the bright side, there is active thermal management for the battery, because some of those early EVs, man, they did not have that. Even some EVs that have been out in the last couple of years have not had active thermal management or very good thermal management for fast charging. But the Optiq is a very nice car. Over the last 9 months, I have really enjoyed driving this vehicle. Without the Optiq, I probably wouldn't even have this YouTube channel. It has been a joy. It has really brought out my passion for car detailing. I've always enjoyed washing my own car, but man, I've really taken it up a couple levels in that realm. But it's it's nice. It's a fun car, and that's the best thing about this car is it is fun to drive. Sure, it's a big SUV, and a lot of people are like, how can an SUV be fun to drive? How can it be sporty? Or, that battery pack gives you a low center of gravity. They've done really good, work in tuning the suspension. You've got sport mode and luxury mode, which doesn't really change anything in the suspension, but it does make the steering a little tighter. It makes the braking a little more aggressive. It makes the acceleration a little more aggressive, gives you a little more power in that power band. It makes it fun to drive. Or you can put it in that luxury mode, or even they've got like a touring mode. Like if you're going to be taking a road trip, you can throw in the touring mode, and your acceleration is even more relaxed. Because how often are you accelerating or needing to accelerate quickly on a freeway? But on the flip side of that, like if you do mash the panel, it does give you the power you need, so it doesn't hold back. But if you're just looking to accelerate a couple miles an hour, it'll just gradually get you there. But it's got a mechanical dampener, so if you you start driving more aggressively, you feel the suspension stiffen up a little bit. If you're just driving around casual Sunday drive, it stays loose, and you don't feel so much with the road. But it works well. The car. So the 2025s, like I have here, they were all-wheel drive and all 300 horsepower. Now for the 2026 model year, you have the all-wheel drive that has 400 horsepower and the rear-wheel drive that has 300 horsepower, because they changed out the motors. So this has a front-wheel drive bias. There's a 200 horsepower motor in the front and a 100 horsepower motor in the rear. In 2026, you get a 300 horsepower motor in the rear and a 200 or a 100 horsepower motor in the front. So that's how you get the 400 horsepower. You've got the bigger motor in the back, in 2026. Now the 2026 does accelerate faster, and that's cool. It does add to that sportiness of the SUV, but the 2025 still does 0 to 60 in about 5.5 seconds. And now, you might be thinking, it's a Cadillac, it's a luxury car. There's still performance aspects. Is this a CT5 Blackwing? No, absolutely not. Is this an Optiq V or a Lyriq V? No, absolutely not. And even then, the Lyriq V is the quickest 0 to 60 production Cadillac they've ever made. just something to, throw out there and think about. But I mean, these SUVs, the Optiq is sporty, and like I said, it's fun to drive, but it is also comfortable. I mean, I work from home most days, but I love getting out and driving this thing. It is very fun to drive. Over the last 9 months, I've really gotten used to the EV lifestyle. And let me tell you though, I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the changes. I can come home and I can plug in 10-15 seconds, and that's it. I can go to bed or do whatever around the house, and the car will charge up and it'll let me know when it's done. I can set a charge target to wherever I want, and it'll do its thing. It'll also precondition the cabin off of the wall power, so that's cool. So that way, if I want to leave on a road trip at 100% charge, I can charge to 100%, and I can have it cool the interior of the car to whatever I want. So if we're leaving in the summer, or when it's hot out, we can get in a nice cool car and head out. You can even turn on the seat coolers, before you get in the car, and so your seat will be nice and cold when you get in too. I mean, there's so many little things that the Cadillac has done that really make this a nice vehicle. Now, one thing you may be wondering, Jerry, why did you choose the Optiq over anything else that was out at the time? I chose this because of the overall package. It's got the Super Cruise hands-free cruise control, which is amazing for driving through the highways, the freeways, dealing with traffic, using on road trips. It's really nice. Sure, there's some other cars that have it, but maybe I haven't had so much great luck when I've had cars from those brands in the past. I haven't owned a GM car, or at least a GM car in the last 30 years, so, this has been a nice change. The other thing is the sound package. Not every car has a great surround sound system. The Dolby Atmos is really nice. It sounds really good. Again, there's a sportiness to the Optiq. It's got some slightly aggressive looks on the front end. And it's also a Cadillac that also has kind of that classy look to it as well. They've got a good blend. If you go back and listen to some of the interviews with the designers and the engineers when they first revealed the Cadillac, they tried to design the Optiq to appeal to a larger crowd. A lot of Cadillac owners tend to be, higher up that age range, but they're trying to pull in younger buyers, and I think they hit that with the Optiq. Well, car nerds, there we have it. There's a 9-month review on ownership of the Cadillac Optiq. Is it a perfect car? No. Are there trade-offs? Absolutely. But there's trade-offs with any vehicle that you buy. No vehicle is going to be perfect. It doesn't matter who makes it or how much you pay. There's always going to be something that's not quite right. And that's, that's just the state of things. That's how things work. But nothing in life is ever perfect. Over the last 9 months, GM has also been making software updates and improving things. When this car first launched, it had the speakers for Atmos, but it didn't have Atmos, and that came along fairly quickly in one of the first couple updates. They've been doing regular updates for Super Cruise, so that's also nice. They've made improvements to charging performance. They've improved or at least they've tried to improve the cooling of the cabin and the battery at the same time. So some charging performance changes or tweaks. They've added things such as the surround vision recorder that just came out in a new update. They've added Apple Music, and that also has spatial audio to it. So now we can use Tidal, Amazon, or Apple for the Atmos songs. you know, they've made little changes. You know, we also got the ability to stream video when you're parked. So now, you know, while we're parked somewhere charging, or you know, whatever, we can watch YouTube videos or Amazon Prime or HBO Max. You know, a bunch of different apps. You know, again, it's an Android operating system. It's a GM curated store, but you know, there's plenty of options for streaming. You know, so there's little things that GM has done to improve the vehicle. You know, I guess we're going to see where things are at in another 3 months. You know, am I just as happy after a year of ownership? I don't know. We're going to find out. But I have really enjoyed this car for the last 9 months. It has been a pleasure to drive. You know, whether it's just around town or on road trips, it's been good to have. You know, the car's probably going to get an update here in another 4 or 5 years. GM's got a new platform that they're working on. What changes are they going to make? Will they move to 800 volts? I don't know. We're going to find out though. But so far, I've really enjoyed this vehicle. It has been a very fun car to drive. It's been a pleasure to drive. And I think I've said that like 3 times already. But here we are. Sorry. But thanks for joining me for another video, and we will catch you next time.